Hi, this is Stephen Bourne with the Rise Civic League. Stick around. Alex is going to tell you more about history, actually, where we get some of our history. All right, March 3rd, this coming Tuesday night, Candidates Night, Rye Library, 7 o'clock. There's only 3 contested races, 2 people for 1-year select board, 5 people for 3-year select board, and 3 people running for the library boards of trustees. Then the town election is Tuesday, March 10th. Only 30% on a good year, all right, of the people in Rye show up to vote. So if you think about it, you look left, you look right, the good chance if you vote, your neighbors aren't voting. So please make an effort, make sure you vote, other people you know and vote. Let's see if we can please get better participation in our election. So what happened in February? The last select board meeting, there was a very long discussion about the 3 options for the TAP grant on Washington Road. If you remember, we did the charrette. We had the Rye Town Center Committee. The Senate Committee was pushed to, all right, let's do this TAP grant. We'll get some momentum. And the focus has been on just getting this TAP grant done, not like the overall, what do we want our town center to be? The options are described in some minutes in a meeting they had with the contract DPW director. Other stuff, I think I mentioned this last time, but Coakley landfill, the plume of PFOAs is spreading. There's a report, the map, more of Rye is in that. The EPA Superfund group just focuses on Coakley, but they're not saying, yeah, some of this is coming from the breakfast landfill or not, which is suspected, but no one's doing the work to do that. All right, other things at the select board, the town clerk and the select board were working on the beach parking stickers. The problem they're having is that they require the car registrations to match the addresses on the tax bill. That was causing some problems, so they've slightly modified the form, and then exceptions are going to go to the select board. Let's see. And then also the last select board, I guess there was stuff on Facebook. I don't look at Facebook. It's too distracting and all right. But about why the select board was not able to come to a collective bargaining agreement with the town employees. Select member McGrath made a statement about that. I've got the times. You can watch that in the videos, but also go to the end where Tom King, says, hey, this is really, you got this wrong, you got this right, and provided a lot more insight on that. The Harbor Road Bridge is actually moving forward. Remember, where they're looking right now at the wooden one-lane structure, adding a pedestrian. They've got some cost estimates. It's going to be, about $50,000 more than the $972 we put aside. There could be some more work. Once they get started, about 7 months to get the permitting. So, the residents and everyone else is hoping that can finally move forward. The Conservation Commission has a report on the conditions of our trails and impact. Haven't looked through it all, but there's a link to that. On Tuesday, March 5th at 10:30, there's going to be the public discussion of that. If you can make that, please, try to go. Very, very interesting stuff. Speaking of the Conservation Commission, the how to deal with the swallows at Goss Farm Barn, it's going to be sealed. So they had a vote 4-3. We're going to link to the motion, but the plan is to keep the swallows out for a year and then see what happens there. Moving on to the schools, I don't know if you saw it in the paper, but the SA 50, that's us, Greenland, Newington, Newcastle. The superintendent, Zacharias, who came from Portsmouth there, now he's going to Massachusetts. So next year we're going to have a new superintendent. Also the Portsmouth principal, if you didn't know, Steve Sonosi is leaving. They did say they've screened it down to 3 principal candidates for PHS. We don't know when that public is going to have a chance to start to meet some of those. Also the school, they had an action to do a memo on AP classes not offered at Portsmouth High School. They have that memo. There's really not much we can do. That ship sailed a long time ago. Also, the school, you're going to vote for, hopefully. Should be influenced one way or that. But there's an RFP to look at options for the different school buildings, everything else. I've already provided some feedback to the school board, but that's there. If it gets approved, that would be the next steps go forward. All right, stick around. You're going to learn about how do you come up with this history? Where the heck does it come from Alex? All right, here he is.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are standing in the gift shop of the Rye Town Museum, and I thought today it would be good to highlight Parsons' History of Rye, because without it, I could not have written my book. So we all owe a great debt to him. And just while I'm thinking about Langdon Parsons, who published his book in 1905, Parsons' History of Rye, and there he is. And Langdon is the great-grandfather of Jenna MacDonald, who is on the board of the Historical Society. So we have a direct link. And Jenna's cousin, Edward Parsons, is the one who keeps this book in print solely for us, because it has always been the best seller out of this gift shop. In fact, we only got 3 left, so we got to order some more, because his book and my book complement each other like a lot of the books on Rye history. So the only thing that he didn't do in his book, which, by the way, you can access this online. I mean, there are about a dozen different sites for Rye history online, which I have tried to publicize in the past. The one thing he forgot to do is make a table of contents. Well, that was easy. I just did it myself, and I've tried to paste it in all of the books that are in the library and the ones that we sell here. But if you go online, of course, you won't find that. But his chapters are thematic as opposed to mine being chronological. So he's got things on, the parish of Rye, population, schools, inns, taverns, and hotels, churches, industrial isles or shoals, etc. So this book is extraordinary because the whole first half of it is 300 years. And one of the ways he was able to get a lot of information from the 16 and 1700s is that we had a minister named Huntington Porter, and he was with us for a long time. And early in the 1800s, he had collected so much information about Rye history, he gave a century sermon in which he talked about the history of the town, more of the 1700s, but a little bit of the 1600s. But, especially since we were the parish of Rye, 1726. And so there were a lot more records then. We had a select board and so forth. So there was so much information in that sermon that course came down in print. And then Langdon Parsons, who in the 1870s was actually a town clerk for a while in Rye, and then he began to collect it from his relatives, some of whom were doctors who heard a lot of oral history, and then he was collecting all the information. He went to Concord a lot. He has a lot in here from the provincial papers in Concord. That's where we get the details. Who died in the American Revolution from Rye, those 39 people that I highlighted last year. And there is an effort. Everybody realizes nobody can see the war monument in Rye with all those names on it. So we're really considering where we might move it so it could be accessible to the public. And there are also some missing names, and we're going to try to rectify that. But anyway, Parsons really gave us so much history. Even though it wasn't the 20th century, we've had bits and pieces of that, and now my book tries to make up for that, although there's still a great deal more that we could work on. So watch for all the publicity. Every month you're going to be seeing things. A good example will be April. In the Civic News, we will be talking about the 300th anniversary of Rye as a parish having a select board. We'll be talking about who those selectmen were, what they did, and then how that evolved. So that's really our big month for the political 300th coming up next month, and we'll be talking about that then. And the other big thing is there definitely will be a sort of a Rye Day. If you remember that from August of 23, when we all gathered in Parsons Field and had such a great time with all the events. But last century, for every 4th of July, there was always a big summer parade, which we're trying to revive. Please watch for that publicity. But definitely from 11 to 4, Saturday, July 4th this year, we will have the Parsons Field events, just like Rye Day. And I hope we can do that every 4th of July. But think about the summer parade. It'll be a lot of fun. It's a lot warmer than it is in December. Thank you.